Nerve. Nerve is a tissue. Nerve is a tissue because it's made up of many cells, and those cells are called neuron. Now, neuron are of different types. They can be multipolar, they can be unipolar, or they can be bipolar. Now, if they are multipolar neuron, they will have the cell body 1, and they have many branched processes like this, which is called as dendrites. And there is a long process which is called as axon. So they have the cell body, and cell body has got a nucleus, and there are some structures called as Nissel's body or Nissel's granules. Nissel's granules are like rough endoplasmic reticulum. They synthesize proteins for the neuron. And the dendrites are branched. These dendrites receive the information. They receive the information from brain and the spinal cord. These are called dendrites. After receiving the information through the dendrites, the information in the form of electrical impulses will pass on to the cell body. Then the impulses will travel along the long process, which is called axon. This is called axon. Now, there are two types of neurons, where some of the neurons, the axons, will be covered by myelin sheath. Myelin sheath is made up of proteins as well as fats, and they are made up of Schwann cells. So the Schwann cells will form a layer around the axon. So these are called Schwann cells. And then the axon will end up in nerve terminal, which can form knobs. So we can call them as nerve ending. The gaps between these Schwann cells are called as nodes of Ranvier. Thus, the electrical impulses that travel from the dendrites, they pass through the cell body, and then they pass through the axon. Now, when the axon is covered by Schwann cells with gaps called nodes of Ranvier, the impulse transmission will be faster. So, if the impulse is at this point, it can jump from this point to the nodes of Ranvier like this. So, the nerve impulses will travel faster if the axon is covered by myelin sheath, which is made up of Schwann cells. Mostly the brain as well as spinal cord, their nerves are made up of multipolar type of neurons, where the nerve impulse transmission is faster, and after the nerve impulse reaches, which is actually in the form of electrical impulses, when the impulse reaches the nerve ending, then they jump on to the next neuron in place. So there will be a gap here between the two neurons. These are the dendrites of the next neurons. So there is a gap between the first neuron and the second neuron. This gap is called as synapse. So in this synapse area, the nerve impulses that was traveling in the form of electrical impulses will get converted to chemical impulses here, which are also called as neurotransmitters. And then the chemical impulses will get converted again to form electrical impulses on the next neuron, that is towards the dendrites. Now there are neurons that does not have myelin sheath, so they will be non-myelinated. Nerve impulses do travel along them too, but the impulse transmission will be little slow when compared to the myelinated type of neurons. So that's about the multipolar neurons. And there are some cells too. There are some cells surrounding the neurons. These cells are called glial cells or neuroglial cells. Neuroglial cells, they are there to protect the neurons. Next is unipolar neurons. Unipolar neurons means the cell body or the cytons will have only one pole or only axons. This kind of neurons can be seen in the embryo. And then comes bipolar neurons. Bipolar neurons are found in the retina of the eyes. Now this is the lens of the eyes, means you can see the retina of the eyes here. So it is in these retina of eyes you can see the bipolar neurons. Bipolar neurons will have two poles. There will be a dendrite, there will be cyton or cell body, and the other pole we have the axon. And then they will be called as bipolar neurons.